Warning. Spoilers ahead for NCIS's Tony and Ziva Season 1, Episode 5. Episode 5 of NCIS Tony and Ziva delivered one of the most heartbreaking twists so far, leaving fans stunned and deeply emotional. The shocking death at the end didn't just shock viewers, it emphasized a sad truth about Tony and Ziva's lives, showing that no matter how much they try to live a peaceful family life, their past and the chaos surrounding them will always find a way back. From the start, the spin-off made it clear that Tony and Ziva's lives wouldn't stay calm. The story picks up years after their reunion, following the attack on Tony's company, which set the stage for the couple to face danger and uncertainty again. The show's premise made it understandable why the focus wasn't entirely on family life, as the threats and mysteries around them demanded attention and created constant tension. Despite the chaos, the series gave viewers glimpses of what life could be like for Tony, Ziva, and Tali in Paris. Their family life seemed to have found a fragile sense of normalcy. Tony and Ziva were clearly struggling with communication, as highlighted when Ziva didn't fully understand the scope of Tony's new relationship, showing that even years after their reunion, their personal lives were still complicated. Still, there was hope. Life in Paris, while far from perfect, was a momentary escape from the turmoil of their past, giving them all a chance to feel safe, even if only for a short while. That feeling of safety, however, was completely destroyed in the final moments of Episode 5, leaving Tony and Ziva to confront a reality they had hoped they could avoid. The death in the episode hit Tony harder than anything else. His best friend Henry was killed by Markham in a brutal, sudden moment that shook the entire foundation of Tony's hope for a normal life. Up until that point, Tony had been dealing with a roller coaster of emotions, including confusion, fear, and the feeling that someone close to him had betrayed him. In Episode 4, there was a brief moment suggesting Henry wasn't the villain, but Tony didn't witness it, leaving him to wrestle with doubt and suspicion. Being trapped in a supermax prison in Episode 5 further cemented Tony's fear that the peaceful life he had imagined with Ziva and Tali was nothing more than an illusion. Their pasts, full of danger and betrayal, made it feel like a happy life was almost impossible, and Henry's death made that fear real. Before Henry's death, there was still a sliver of hope. Tony managed to connect with Henry, trust him again, and even work together to escape dangerous situations, which gave him a brief sense that a return to normalcy was possible. Tony imagined a life where, once the investigation concluded and the real criminals were caught, he could go back to Paris and enjoy simple family life with Ziva and Tali. But the moment Markham killed Henry destroyed that hope. Everything that had been resolved by the investigation now felt meaningless, and the death of his best friend became a permanent reminder of how fragile and fleeting happiness can be for Tony and Ziva. Henry's death was particularly devastating because it wasn't random. Henry had been loyal to Tony and Ziva, often putting himself at risk to help them. Ironically, his loyalty is what led to his death. Markham could have struck at any time, but he chose the moment Henry was helping Tony and Ziva rescue Tali. This made Tony feel indirectly responsible, amplifying the grief and guilt he already carried. It wasn't just losing a friend, it was losing someone who had always been a source of support and trust. And the timing of his death made it impossible for Tony to ignore the emotional weight of the situation. Episode 5 forced Tony to confront the harsh reality that returning to the old life he dreamed of in Paris wasn't possible. Until that point, Tony had been holding on to the idea that once everything was solved, life could return to a peaceful routine. His conversations with Ziva highlighted how he hadn't fully processed the trauma he and his family had experienced. Unlike Ziva, who had sought therapy and was making an effort to cope with their past, Tony was still relying on hope and denial. He physically participated in moments like couples boot camp, but emotionally, he hadn't done the work required to heal. Henry's death now makes that work unavoidable. Tony can't pretend everything is fine or that life can go back to the way it was. The tragedy also opens the door for potential growth in Tony and Ziva's relationship. The loss of Henry, as painful as it is, could push Tony to finally confront his feelings, his trauma, and his past mistakes. This is a reminder of the fragility of their happiness and the importance of addressing emotional wounds. Tony may now follow Ziva's example, seeking help and processing his grief, which could strengthen their bond and provide a more honest foundation for their life with Tali. Their shared loss may even become a source of connection, allowing them to support each other in ways they hadn't before. While the episode is heartbreaking, it sets up the story for the rest of the season. The villains are still out there, and Markham's role in Henry's death adds a personal stake to Tony and Ziva's mission. It's no longer just about clearing their names, it's about justice, closure, and survival. The tragedy changes the stakes for every action they take and forces them to confront a reality where safety and normalcy are constantly threatened. The sad truth of episode 5 is that Tony and Ziva may never experience a fully normal life. Their pasts, the enemies they've faced, and the choices they've made will always intrude, reminding them that peace is fleeting. However, this doesn't mean happiness is impossible. The idea of a new normal could emerge, one that is built on honesty, emotional growth, and resilience rather than illusion. Tony and Ziva may not be able to replicate their Paris dream exactly, but they can create a life that is real and meaningful, even if it carries scars from their past. The emotional weight of episode 5 serves as a turning point for Tony. Losing Henry forces him to process his trauma instead of burying it under the fantasy of normal life. This could lead him to seek therapy, confront his guilt, and take the necessary steps to heal, both as a parent and as a partner. For Ziva, seeing Tony finally engage with his emotions could strengthen their bond and help them create a life that is honest and supportive for Tali. Even in the midst of tragedy, there is the potential for growth and healing, which makes the ending not just sad, but also meaningful. As the season continues, viewers can expect the story to explore how Tony and Ziva navigate this new reality. The loss of Henry will likely have ripple effects, shaping their decisions, their relationships, and their understanding of what family and safety truly mean. Episode 5 reminds us that happiness in their world is never guaranteed, but it also suggests that resilience, love, and honesty can help them find a version of peace that is possible, even if it looks different from what they imagined. Episode 5 NCIS Tony and Ziva is a stark reminder that life for these characters is full of unexpected dangers and heartbreaks, but it also leaves room for emotional growth. Tony and Ziva now face the challenge of rebuilding their lives after a loss that changes everything. The Paris life they dreamed of may be gone, but the opportunity to create a new normal, built on honesty and healing remains. The show emphasizes that tragedy and loss don't have to end hope, and for Tony, Ziva, and Tali, the future can still hold moments of love, connection, and strength, even in the shadow of heartbreak. The events of episode 5 highlight that Tony and Ziva's lives are forever marked by the past, but they also show that growth and healing are possible if they face the truth. The loss of Henry is devastating, but it is also a catalyst that forces Tony to confront what he's been avoiding emotionally. As they continue to navigate danger, betrayal, and grief, the potential for a stronger, more honest life becomes clearer. Even in a world filled with danger and uncertainty, Tony and Ziva's story shows that resilience, love, and hope can survive. No matter how heartbreaking episode 5 was, it sets the stage for an emotional journey that promises growth and change. Tony and Ziva must reconcile with the past, process the grief of losing Henry, and learn how to build a life that is grounded in reality rather than fantasy. Their journey is far from easy, but it shows that even in the face of tragedy, there is the possibility of creating a meaningful and loving life together. The spin-off continues to explore the fragility of happiness, the importance of trust, and the enduring strength of family, proving that even in darkness, there can be hope.